Today we are going to be answering a question that's asked by new players, by old players, by in-between players. And that is, what makes an airsoft gun LiPo ready? What's going on, you guys? My name is Cisco, and today we're going to be going over what it takes to make a airsoft gun LiPo ready. Now, there is a lot of science behind this that is beyond my understanding, so we're just going to go over this and try and keep it as simple as possible to give you, the broad information of what you need to make your gun LiPo ready. Before I go in a little bit deeper, I just want to clarify some terminology. When I say LiPo battery, I'm talking about an 11-1 LiPo battery, okay? Now, there is two types of LiPo batteries that is commonly used in airsoft, which is going to be the 7.4 volt battery that you can use pretty much in any AEG. And then there's going to be the 11-1 LiPo, which we're going to be talking about today. Now, why would you want to use an 11-1 LiPo in your airsoft gun? And basically, it's because it will give you a performance boost. It will increase your rate of fire and your trigger response. So when you are shooting the gun, it will actually shoot faster in BBs per second. And when you are shooting it in semi, it will feel much more snappier, feeling like a high quality airsoft gun. Now, it's common knowledge in airsoft that you can't just plug an 11-1 LiPo into any airsoft gun unless it's said by the manufacturer that they are LiPo ready. But what happens if you say screw it and decide to plug an 11-1 LiPo into your cheaper airsoft gun? Well, let's dive in deeper and find out. Okay, guys, so to give you a better idea of what goes on, we drew a diagram. Actually, Boaz drew it. I didn't draw it because it's obviously not to scale, but this gives us a look to see what is going on. As you can see up here, we have the piston, the trigger contact right here, the trigger, the gear set. These circles in the gears are the bearings or bushings depending on the gearbox or gun that you have. Then we have the motor right here and the wiring leading out to the battery. So again, what happens if you decide to say screw it and plug that 11-1 LiPo right into your airsoft gun? Well, immediately, one of two things are going to happen. Your gun is going to break immediately. Congratulations, you found out that your gun was not LiPo ready. Or two, the gun will actually fire. Now, if it does fire, you're going to notice an increased performance in trigger response and rate of fire. That's because the motor is pulling as much power as it can to function the gun, which means the increased power is going to increase the speed that the gears are rotating, and that's going to add stress to your bearings or bushings and your piston, which means you now have a ticking time bomb. So what are some of the symptoms of a dying airsoft gun on a LiPo battery? One of the most common problems is going to be what's called pre-engagement. Now, because of the LiPo battery, the motor is going to be spinning much faster, and the motor spins this way, and then the gear set is going to be spinning faster as well. So the gear is going to spin like that way and that way, and I think like that way. I'm not sure the exact direction, I forget, but you get the idea. They're going to be rotating this way, and the gear set is going to be pulling the piston back, which is going to be going back and forth just like that. Okay, and pre-engagement happens when the piston is not able to keep up with the gear set. So what happens is the gears are going to be spinning, the piston is going to be traveling forward, and before it completely resets, the sector gear is going to pick up on some of the middle teeth of the piston, and that's going to start to grind away at the teeth until they eventually break. So when the pre-engagement happens, you're going to start hearing this really grindy, whiny noise. It's not going to sound good, okay? It's going to sound really bad. And that's going to continue to happen until you hear the fatal zzz, which means your airsoft gun or the piston has broken all of its teeth, and now you have death. Another common symptom of a dying airsoft gun on a LiPo battery are going to be burnt trigger contacts. Now, as you can see above the trigger are going to be the trigger contacts or trigger assembly. Now, when you pull the trigger, it's going to complete the circuit of the gun, allowing battery power, electricity to flow into the airsoft gun, powering all of this other stuff, okay? Now, the symptoms of burnt trigger contacts are going to be you're pulling the trigger and you are skipping shots. So maybe you shoot it a couple times, and then on the third shot, it just doesn't fire. And then you shoot it again and it works, and then again, you miss a shot. And that will continue to increase and happen over and over until eventually the trigger contacts burn out. They're gone. It's gone. It's all here. All that is gone. And your gun will just stop working and your gun is dead. Now, you might be lucky if your gun just died outright when plugging in the battery. And you might be asking yourself, Cisco, why am I lucky? My gun died just from plugging in the battery and trying to shoot it. Well, it's more than likely your airsoft gun has a fuse. And if you don't know, a fuse is a safety device that's installed in airsoft guns to prevent all of this from dying, okay? So what happens is a fuse is normally connected in between the battery and the wiring going into the gearbox. And if there is too much electrical current flowing through the wiring, the fuse will break instead of allowing electricity to go through and, you know, getting other symptoms like the pre-engagement or the burnt trigger contacts. The fuse is really cheap, really easy to install, and you are lucky in that sense. A common myth in airsoft is that if you install a MOSFET into your airsoft gun, it immediately makes it LiPo ready. And that's a yes and a no. Now, the reason the MOSFET helps increase the longevity of your airsoft gun is because it will take the brunt force of the battery compared to the trigger contacts. So when you pull the trigger actually turns into basically an on and off switch for the MOSFET. So when you pull the trigger, the MOSFET will turn on, taking all the power of the battery and then sending it to the rest of the gun to cycle everything else. Now, the problem with this is the motor is still spinning faster, which means the gears are still spinning faster, right? The bearings, the stress to it, it can't handle it. And the piston is still not able to keep up with the faster spinning gear set, which means eventually you're going to kill your airsoft gun. Now, when an airsoft manufacturer says that their airsoft gun is LiPo ready, they normally advertise that it comes with a MOSFET out of the box. But what they don't really talk about is the reinforced parts that they install. More than likely, they replace the gear set, the bearings or bushings, and the piston with more reinforced parts. Now, you might be asking yourself, Cisco, how do I get my non-LiPo ready airsoft gun to be LiPo ready? The first thing that you're going to want to change out is going to be the gear set. Get yourself a nice high quality gear set that will be able to handle the stress that comes with a LiPo battery. After that, you're going to want to change out your bushings or bearings for bushings, okay? And if you have bearings, just get bushings. Get high quality bushings that can handle high stress, okay? Don't ask me about bearings and no, bearings are just overall better, okay? And then finally, you're gonna want to replace your piston with a higher quality piston that is going to be reinforced, because more than likely you're gonna be using a plastic piston out of the box. And then finally, the cherry on top is getting the MOSFET to install after all of those parts, okay? So these are all going to be a must, and then the cherry on top, the MOSFET. Now, companies like KWA say their airsoft guns are LiPo ready, but don't have a MOSFET. How is that possible? It's because KWA put high quality gears, high quality bushings, and a high quality piston, which just proves the point that you don't need a MOSFET. Now, you might be saying, Cisco, the trigger contacts are still taking the brunt of the force. You're correct. But KWA has included a fuse and something called a switch life extender that can help the trigger contacts take that force much more effectively over time. But the newer models of KWA actually are designed for you to be able to install an aftermarket MOSFET, which you can do, honestly should do, because it will just increase the longevity of your airsoft gun. But the fact that they don't have a MOSFET out of the box only proves the point that these parts need to be replaced to get your gun LiPo ready. Now, when installing all of these parts to make your airsoft gun LiPo ready, you can install all of these parts to tolerate a LiPo battery, but you can start getting into really advanced gun building where you can really maximize the output of your airsoft gun with pairing specific parts together, you know, like the gear set with a specific piston and a specific motor and a specific MOSFET. You can really maximize that performance, just like our new Airsoft Typhoon custom lineup. All right, that pretty much covers all the parts you need to make your airsoft gun LiPo ready. So we are done with this diagram, but now it's time to talk about LiPo batteries, because just how you need specific parts for your airsoft gun, you're going to need a specific battery. Now, when looking into a LiPo battery, you're going to see a whole bunch of numbers, and it's very important to look at these to determine on what battery is perfect for you. The first number that you're going to look at is the voltage, which is going to be indicated by a very large V next to the number. And you're going to want to use an 11-1 LiPo, what we've been talking about the whole video, okay? You're not going to want to do anything higher or lower. 11-1 is going to be perfect for you. You put all this time and effort and money into making your airsoft gun LiPo ready. This is the battery that you're going to want, okay? The next number that you're going to look at is the milliamp hours, or the mAh. This is going to determine how much juice your battery actually has. The most commonly used battery in airsoft is going to be between 1,000 to 1,100 milliamp hours, because it's going to get you through a day of play, give or take, and it's going to be small enough to fit into tight places such as a buffer tube or a stock. And finally, the last number that you're going to look at is going to be the current rating, or the C rating. And this is probably the most overlooked and the second, if not the most important part of the battery. Now, the current rating, or the C rating on a battery, is going to determine how much power a battery is actually able to put into an airsoft gun every time you pull the trigger. Now, a good rule of thumb to follow is for an airsoft gun that says they are LiPo ready, or you're not doing any extreme gun building, is to use a battery of a lower C rating, okay? We typically recommend using between a 15C to a 20C LiPo battery for the best performance. You can choose to go with a higher C rating, but you are going to increase the wear and tear on the airsoft gun over time. As I said earlier, the batteries we recommended are just a rule of thumb. There are some high-end guns, even high-end custom guns like our Typhoon line, that require a higher C rating, okay? Or maybe you're a gun builder that wants to maximize the performance of your build, that you're going to need a higher C rating to get that performance. For instance, our Typhoon line, they require a minimum of at least 30 Cs to get the best performance. But you can use a lower discharge battery, but you won't get the best performance. To stress how important the current rating is on a battery, I do have two RC LiPo batteries here. One we have named Big Bertha. This one has a 150C rating, okay? This is a battery that we use to test a lot of the Airsoft Jet Customs and has killed a lot of airsoft guns, okay? And we have this one right here, which we have dubbed the Gun Killer, because it is a 175C rating. This kills airsoft guns. We have done it before. Now again, these are RC car, RC drone batteries. They're not made for airsoft. So when you are choosing your battery, you're gonna want to use or find an airsoft specific battery like the LiPo batteries at airsoftgi.com. As you can see on these RC car batteries, we wrote down the C rating because there's actually two types of ways to measure the currents. It's going to be burst rating and continuous rating. In airsoft, burst rating is used, okay? So every time you pull the trigger, the battery is sending bursts of electricity to the airsoft gun to make it work. As to a RC car, it's going to be continuously drawing power from the battery, which is why it is, again, important to use an airsoft specific battery, because the battery will tell you the burst rating. As you can see here, these LiPo batteries are wired to Tamiya. Change them to Deans. Okay, change it to Deans, okay? It's just a better connector. It's more conductive, it's safer, it's easier to plug in, and you're removing another point of failure, because Tamiya plugs aren't the best in a connection, okay? These can melt due to the heat generated. Just like the trigger contacts can burn out, these have melted. I've seen it happen. Deans. Now, when looking at a LiPo battery, you're going to notice that there are going to be two connectors. There's going to be the connector that goes into the gun and the connector that goes into the charger. Now, you're going to need a LiPo specific charger, a LiPo charger, because it is the only way to charge this battery, okay? If you try to charge it through this connector right here, it will blow up. No, literally, it will blow up. It will catch fire. Understood? It's going to burn your house. It's going to ruin your life. This is a commonly used LiPo charger in airsoft, and the way that you use it is plug it into the wall, obviously. Then you take the white connector and plug it into a slot that fits. Now, if you look at the charger, you can see that there is a switch on the top. There are two positions, one for Li-Fi, which is lithium iron, and LiPo, lithium polymer. You're going to want to make sure that switch is set to LiPo so you can actually charge your battery. If it's set to Li-Fi, it will not charge. Once your LiPo charger is set to the correct setting and your battery is plugged in, you can pretty much just leave it alone. Luckily, most LiPo chargers are smart chargers. So once the battery is fully charged, it will change over to a trickle charge to prevent the battery from overcharging and blow up. Now, there are multiple plugs on this charger, but you are only able to charge one battery at a time. I know it is tempting to try and charge multiple batteries at once, but don't do it. You're gonna kill both of your batteries and have a very bad day. Now, the last tip for using a LiPo battery is to make sure that you're not running it completely dead. Now, when you're playing on the field, you're going to eventually notice that your airsoft gun starts to become very sluggish. That's an indicator that your battery is running low. What you're gonna wanna do is immediately stop shooting, change out the battery, and get the battery that has been drained onto a charger as soon as possible. Because if you run out of juice, run this completely dead, it's dead forever. And a good way to prevent this is most players eventually get 2 LiPo batteries, one as a primary to use until it's starting to drain, and then switch over to the backup so they can continue having a day of play without having to worry about killing their battery. All right, you guys, I hope this video on LiPo batteries was helpful to you. Again, I am not a science guy. I'm not that scientific. I know there's a lot more that goes into LiPo batteries. This was just to give you guys a general understanding of using a LiPo battery, okay? I know there's a bunch of you guys that know a lot more about LiPos, more than me, so help each other out in the comments below. And if you want to help us out, make sure you subscribe for more content and tune into my live stream giveaways where I give away airsoft guns, okay? And if you want to support us more directly, go over to airsoftgi.com and pick up all your airsoft goodies over there, including your LiPo batteries and chargers, okay? Other than that, my name is Cisco, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Hey, you.
Hey.
I heard you giving away free airsoft guns.
Oh, you want a free airsoft gun?
Oh, I'd love a free airsoft gun from you.
Oh, then it's really easy. All you have to do is place an order at airsoftgi.com, $20 and up, and you'll be automatically entered into my live stream giveaway.
Automatically?
Automatically. I live stream every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from home, where I answer questions, talk to you, and even play games with you.
Oh, you be playing games with us?
That's right. And you have to be there at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's the deadline for when I call the winner. And if you're not there to claim your prize, if you are the lucky winner, then the prize gets moved on to the next live stream.
Oh, so then that means I could win more than one gun?
That's right.
Oh, I love it when you give away more than one gun.
I love it when you don't touch my face. Okay.
Well, we'll do that.
Okay, please stop touching my face.